Hey guys, welcome back to another video. I hope you had a wonderful weekend and a good start to your week. So on this channel, I often talk data, load rates, volumes, rejection levels, diesel prices, and so on. But today I want to talk about what is actually happening in the trucking industry. I want to give you a warning about another potential shutdown of a broker, discuss why capacity is not leaving as quickly as we would expect it to, and finally, and most importantly, I want to talk about what these impending broker shutdowns mean for us carriers. Ready? Let's go. Well, yet another broker is about to kick the bucket, even though they're claiming they are possibly going to merge with another broker to avoid a shutdown. Elite Transit Solutions of Pennsylvania has just laid off 65 workers last Friday, on top of the 20 workers that they laid off around October 20th. Now, I felt that this is extremely important to speak about after reading the horrific article that came out on FreightWaves on Saturday. Now, according to one of the ex-employees of Elite Transit Solutions, we heard from carriers that were forced to close their trucking companies, including one that had to sell his business and his home because we hadn't paid him, he said. We received an email from the wife of a carrier owner whose husband attempted suicide and blamed Elite for not paying him. So this is a very real and a very significant issue that is going to continue happening as the market correction happens. Many carriers who don't check credit histories, not just credit scores and days to pay, credit histories, are going to end up in a position where they're just not going to get paid for the loads that they move. Now, another point of concern for me, and this is based on some of the comments I have read from our community members, is the whole idea of sticking to those brokers that you built a relationship with. So some people in the community believe that it's important to stick to those brokers who have been fair to them. And that is a wonderful thought, but unfortunately, it can have some serious repercussions. In this kind of environment, it is extremely important to expand, diversify your network, and not put all of your eggs in one basket. Don't accrue a high accounts receivable with one broker, because if something happens to that one broker that you rely on, you are in a very bad position. All right, before we go on to what it means for us as carriers if brokers start going out of business, let's talk about the market correction, specifically capacity. Now, we already know, all of us know that capacity is one of the leading issues or explanations for the current crap storm we see in the freight market. The question on my mind has always been, why is capacity not leaving in higher numbers given the current environment? I mean, the conditions are absolutely ridiculous with the minimal income from load rates, right? And the astronomical expenses to actually run a trucking business. I would think that more and more carriers would go out. I mean, in larger numbers, they are going out, but we're not seeing a real purge in capacity at the moment. So according to the Journal of Commerce analyst Jason Miller, there are actually 3 reasons that he lists based on data that are a possible explanation. Now, he specifically talks about dry vans in this article, but it can definitely be applied to other equipment types. So the first reason he talks about, and this is obvious, is that between 2020 and the beginning of 2022, carriers made an astronomical amount of money. And I quote, "The 2021 Service Annual Survey data suggests that trucking establishments across all subsectors of trucking made $69 billion in operating profit, revenue less expense, profit, net income. This was in 2021 as compared to the $47 billion in 2018. Which was the prior high water mark." Miller says that even though in 2022 things started to go kind of downhill, he states that 2022 was also most likely a profitable year for a lot of carriers. And I quote, "Prices continued to rise through the 2022 bid season," so he's talking about contract carriers, "before starting to fall in the third quarter. These accumulated profits provide carriers a war chest to survive today's lower freight rate environment. The second reason Miller gives is service diversification. My God, that is a mouthful. So I quote, data from the economic census indicates that only 53% of these establishments' revenue came from traditional over-the-road dry van truckload transportation. Reminder, he's talking about dry vans here, but it can be applied to any equipment type, right? The remaining 47% of the revenue comes from a variety of specialized transportation services such as flatbed, temperature-controlled chemicals, and dry bulk. In other words, those dry van operators, those dry van carriers who predominantly transported general freight, started adapting to the market by switching to equipment types that are not in as much free fall as the dry van. I mean, we did that too. You guys know this. We switched our dry van to a flatbed, our reefer, one of our reefers, to a flatbed, because in April, when we made the switch, the possibility of making a profit on a flatbed was much higher than on a reefer or a dry van. The final reason that he gives is the new carrier fleet sizes. So a question that has puzzled a lot of us is, how is it possible that the new carriers who entered in 2020 and 2021 are not the first ones to go out? That's number one. And those that are going out are not going out at the rate that they came in, considering the bloodbath that is happening today. Well, Miller says that the average fleet size of a carrier that entered from 2018 until now is about 25% bigger than those that entered from 2012 until 2018. Now, he says, and I quote, critically, larger average company size reduces the rate that jobs are destroyed. Thus, capacity may be slower to exit because new entrant general freight trucking companies over the past few years have been larger than in the past. And they have the greater resources that comes with larger size, helping them make it through the challenging freight cycle. So finally, we come to the point of, what do all of these conditions mean for the near future? Many are celebrating the demise of brokerages. Some are concerned about non-payment, and for good reason. But what does this impending broker shutdown mean for us carriers? Well, someone in the community said that this industry is filled with, and I quote, a rat's instinct for survival. And they're absolutely correct, especially with what is going to happen next. Brokers, especially those that are not in a good position right now because of the accounts receivables that they borrowed against and all of that, are in survival mode. And more than likely, a lot of them are also panicking at the moment. Now, when I was getting certified to be a rescue diver, the one thing I learned, if I learned anything, is that panic is deadly, and it's no exception here. So what might happen next? Well, brokers who are in that survival panicky mode, they will start doing everything humanly possible to get as many opportunities as possible, which means they're going to try to get as much freight as they can. Now, according to Dave Bozeman, the CEO and president of C.H. Robinson, a broker that I have never worked with and will never work with, but let's take a listen. I quote, "It appears that brokers generally are being more aggressive than they've been in the past, using low rates to attract shippers in a very weak spot market." Yep, you heard that right. Now, we know that this has been a problem for 2 years now, that brokers are bidding pretty low for shipments. But currently in this panic mode where they understand that, hey, convoy shut down. Oh my God, Echo Logistics is in a really, really bad position right now. There's so many things happening to brokers. Yeah, they're panicking. So that means they're going to try to save their butts by making up their losses with freight volume, which means they're going to continue bidding as low as possible just to get those shipments from the shipper. So what does that mean for us carriers given the current panic among brokers? Well, we already know that brokers take a huge chunk off of each load in order to try and cover or minimize their losses. Now, considering the current panic that is going on and brokers shutting down left and right, what might end up happening is they will get an initially lower rate from the shipper because they're just trying to get that volume and therefore pricing everything aggressively, as the dude from C.H. Robinson said. I forgot his name already. And that lower initial rate from the shipper, paired with the fact that they're still taking a huge chunk off of each load, means they're going to be selling the loads for dirt cheap, or actually cheaper, to carriers while trying to save their own skin. Yeah, guys, so no one ever said that a market correction is going to be painless, where all of a sudden the market just makes a U-turn and magically the rates start going up. Nope. As a correction happens, things do tend to get worse before they actually start getting better. So be diligent in checking who you are working with, who you're moving a load for. Don't rely solely on relationships in this market, because relationships are wonderful, but they mean nothing when push comes to shove. If a broker that you have an excellent relationship with has no money to pay you, they're not going to pay you regardless of what kind of relationship you had. Don't put your eggs in one basket. And of course, be ready for a slow burn when it comes to the turnaround of the trucking industry. This is a good time for planning, guys. Plan A, plan B, plan C, and so on. That's what I'm trying to do, because just like all of you, I'm not immune to this bullshit that's happening in the freight market. It's hard, and I'm trying to make the necessary adjustments to come out the other side. Now, I am going to share what exactly I am doing, what adjustments I am making in a future video once I'm confident that they actually do make a difference. Anyway, guys, keep on fighting, keep on learning, and keep on finding new ways to make the situation a little bit more manageable. Wishing you all a great rest of your week, and I'll see you in the next video.